Everyone has heard the story. Humanity unites, builds a tower to the heavens, and then God confuses their language. But what if I told you the Tower of Babel is not just about pride or human ambition? What if this ancient story hides a secret? One that explains the origin of nations, gods, and even spiritual warfare we see in the Bible. Genesis 11 tells us, "The whole world had one language and a common speech. They said, 'Come, let us build ourselves a city, with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves and not be scattered over the face of the whole earth.'" On the surface, it sounds like arrogance. But when you dig deeper, the real story becomes even more chilling. The people weren't just stacking bricks to touch the clouds. Ancient historians and Jewish traditions say the tower was meant to be a gateway, a ziggurat designed to connect heaven and earth. In other words, Babel wasn't just about architecture. It was about spiritual rebellion. They wanted control of heaven itself. They wanted to replace God with their own system of power. Now here's the part most people never hear in Sunday school. Deuteronomy 32 hints that when God scattered the nations at Babel, he assigned them to other spiritual rulers. It says, "When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, he set the boundaries of the peoples according to the sons of God. But the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob." In other words, God disinherited the nations at Babel. He handed them over to lesser spiritual beings, while keeping Israel as his chosen people. This means Babel wasn't just about languages. It was the moment when the nations were divided spiritually, placed under other powers, while God began a plan to reclaim them through Abraham. The Tower of Babel wasn't just humanity's rebellion. It was a declaration of war against God. That's why in nearly every ancient culture you see stories of gods, divine rulers, and false worship beginning after this event. It was the birth of idolatry, the scattering of humanity, and the setup for the spiritual battles we read all throughout the Bible. And here's the fascinating part. The Bible ends the way it began. In Acts 2, when the Holy Spirit comes at Pentecost, people from every nation hear the disciples speaking in their own languages. It's a direct reversal of Babel. The scattering is undone. The nations are being reclaimed through Christ. So, what really happened at the Tower of Babel? It wasn't just a collapsed construction project. It was the moment humanity tried to dethrone God, the moment nations were divided under spiritual rulers, and the beginning of God's plan to call them back. The question is, are we still building towers today? Not with bricks, but with our own systems, our pride, our attempt to reach heaven without God. What do you think? Does the Tower of Babel still repeat itself in modern times? Let me know in the comments.